Good evening and welcome back to another episode live on the Red Tinted Glasses YouTube channel. And what a night to bring it back. Not just because it feels like it's 50 degrees in Aberdeen, but he's going to be worth about 50 million in 4 years' time when his contract comes to an end. Leighton Clarkson is back at the Dons. Calum, you look like you're absolutely buzzing in your European outfit.
I am in European party mode. I am absolutely delighted. He was sort of hinting at it a lot of the time, and then there was the Twitter rumours about him signing on the 15th, which turned out to be absolutely true. So you can trust Ibiza party goers. It seems. I was still skeptical, but I am over the moon, delighted. The Woodhall House Massive were absolutely loving it earlier today in the office.
And we spoke about it in the end of season review that we did the last time we were live here on the YouTube channel, and the fact that we spoke about Leighton Clarkson, hopefully coming back to the Dons, and it really probably was at that point hope more than anything, because his performances certainly caught the eye. And I don't know about you, but I never thought he would be back here on a permanent basis, let alone a 4-year contract. I just think a man that we never praise enough on this show, actually probably hardly praise him, Stephen Gunn, deserves a lot of credit for getting this deal done.
Yeah, I mean, I saw someone say not bad for a glorified travel agent, and you know what? I agree. Alan Burrows was quick to mention him on Twitter as well, saying, he's been working on this deal for months, and to get it done nice and early as well. Leighton Clark said, "Oh, I'll think about it when I'm on my holidays." As soon as he's back from his holidays, bang, deal's done, signed, sealed, delivered. So full credit to them, and I'm sure a massive financial outlay. We're not sure how much it is, but we're certain that it's more than likely. I'm backtracking now. Broken the transfer record from all those years ago for Paul Bernard, a man I never saw play.
Yeah.
So there we go. But
Yeah.
I mean, full credit has to go to them, and it's a statement of intent. I feel getting him in the door nice and early. So now there's the draw of the European football. They're seeing we're signing players like Leighton Clarkson, who Jurgen Klopp once said it is like the next Philip Lamb, which was bizarre.
Yeah.
But we're signing the next Philip Lamb. So Matty Pollock, get up the road.
Yeah, and Matty Pollock, of course, quoting Leighton Clarkson's tweet, or was it the club's tweet about the fact that he was back. So hopefully he's next up the road to sign on the dotted line, because he was, of course, one of a handful, well, more than a handful, loan players that left the club, with the club releasing those names, which we'll come on to a little bit later, because we'll discuss most of the transfer rumours that have been going around. But I think you're absolutely right, Calum. It's a huge statement of intent from the club. I said that when I was doing a piece for BBC Scotland on Tuesday about the signing of Leighton Clarkson would be a huge coup for ourselves, but also a huge statement intent to the rest of the league. And, I think a few fans of opposition clubs have probably highlighted that as well, the fact that he could probably get into the likes of a Celtic and Rangers team. And I'm sure he probably wasn't short of offers from down south as well, but he's opted to put his faith in Barry Robson and come back to a place that he's been made to feel most welcome. And as Mark Leslie said in the comments, it's going to be a summer. He can just feel it. And, that's really, set the bar. The second summer signing after Nicky Devlin, and it's one that's really captured the imagination of the fans as well. You gave your best opportunity at starting a few Leighton Clarkson songs, and Ewan Locke on his way to Norway to watch Scotland at the weekend, high on life now that Leighton Clarkson signed. And for those that are big Tartan Army fans will know the Lyndon Dyke song, and I was voice noting you my version of Leighton Clarkson to that tune. I think was pretty good, I thought.
I've got it here. If anyone else fancies it, you fancy it? You all fancy it? Yeah, you do. Okay. I hope it's not too loud.
Ooh, baby, do you know what it's worth? Leighton Clarkson is the best on earth. He's from Blackburn, who gives a fuck? He will win us the Scottish Cup.
At least you got it right saying he's from Blackburn now, Glen.
Yeah, I know. To be fair, Liverpool didn't work, so just as well he's from Blackburn. But I think it's quite catchy, and you can delete where appropriate. I like how he used that for Duke last season, and I'm going to use it for Leighton Clarkson. But he deserves a chant. for all his efforts last season. So we'll see if that catches on in the red shed. But Mark also added that could this be the biggest transfer the club has ever pulled off, and not just talking financially, because for those of you on social media specifically, Twitter will have probably seen some of the figures that have been banded around, which has allowed Calum to use his clickbait of record transfer fee in the thumbnail. And, you mentioned Paul Bernard in terms of the biggest fee that we've paid, but I mean, I can't think of a signing that has excited me as much as Leighton Clarkson returning does. I mean, for me, maybe Barry Nicholson was a player that excited me back in those days, but he wasn't a player that we saw for a few months and could really see the potential. Leighton Clarkson just seems on a different level, and I don't know if you've got any names you want to throw forward, Calum.
Not that I can remember. I mean, of the players that we have paid fees for in my lifetime, there hasn't been all that many, at least not for significant fees. I mean, I think the first of two I can really recall, and this is going back a wee while, that we paid fees for Sonny Aluko, and I believe we paid money for Tommy Wright as well.
Oh yeah, 100 grand.
As long as Leighton Clarkson's better than them, then it's okay. It's absolutely okay. And in fact, it's a 4-year deal as well. It's very, very exciting. I'm sure he probably won't be here for the 4 years, but if we can make lots of transfer profit and invest it even further, and we're on our way, Glenn. I feel like the Dons are back. I'm not sure about you. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's just one signing, but I feel like the Dons are back. That's how big this signing is to me.
Really not like you to get absolutely ahead of yourself, but I've been shooting my shot a lot this summer and failing miserably with rejections left, right, and centre, with players not coming back to us for interviews. One agreed verbally, but we've not been able to nail down a date. But this more than makes up for that disappointment, because I just can't wait now to get the games back. Got my Fraserburgh ticket for next month as well, and I'll probably make the trip up to Turriff to. It's really annoying. The Turriff pre-season friendly. They've decided to make all tickets only being sold in Turriff. So probably try and get out for that game in midweek. But I like this comment from Lewis where it says the ridiculous amount spent on Shayden Morris and Jaden Richardson is all worth it now that they managed to keep Leighton at the club. Of course, both of those players spent time in Mykonos with Leighton in the last few weeks, and I noticed he was also with Jack McKenzie in Ibiza as well. So good to see the players doing their best to persuade him to stay at the club. So well done to agent Jaden and Shayden. But an interesting point from Noel Blaha that comes in is how will he handle what will now be added pressure, because he came in somewhat anonymous, but there's a lot of fanfare. And I actually think that's a good point, because when I was reading the article today, it said he only played 29 times last season, which is crazy because it feels like he played a lot more than that. But his worth to the team last season with the goals and assists he provided has probably generated that fanfare.
I think so. I agree. And not only the goals and assists, I suppose, also the way in which his sort of application to games seemed to change under Barry Robson as well. He doesn't seem just that sort of technical player who's obviously levels above the rest. He's able to handle himself, which is reassuring given his slight stature. But I think, having come through at Liverpool, he'll probably be well used to attention by this point. I mean, the Philip Lahm comment by Jurgen Klopp as well, perhaps playing into that. But I'm sure you'd like to, he's got all the right people around him and things like that as well. And I'm sure Leighton will be okay and lead us to the Europa League.
I can't wait for you to proclaim the Premier League as well, because we've done the Scottish Cup already on this podcast. But it's just great to have that standard set and the excitement. And I guess that's another point that we made the last time we convened on this podcast, was the fact that we are going to get those kind of marquee signings. Leighton obviously falls into that category. If we manage to secure the services of Graham Shinney, I'd probably put him in that category as well. But we're going to maybe get a few signings that are I think, as harsh as it might sound, us as fans would view as underwhelming signings in comparison to a Leighton Clarkson. But looking ahead to next season, we're going to need a bigger squad, especially with the Thursday to Sunday games. So you're going to have to take the good with the maybe not so good. And I guess we saw that a little bit last season with some of the hit and miss signings that we had.
Possibly, but I've got faith in Barry and the boys. Obviously, not all signings are going to have the same effect, as you say, as we saw last season. But it is about building a competitive squad a lot of the time, and it'll certainly need to be upgrades if we're going to hold on to where we are. Because I'm sure Hearts won't have as bad a season as they did last season. We'll have plenty more football to play, and we want to be competitive on all four fronts. So we do need to follow up. But I think it's a fantastic statement of intent, despite Sam Walker's thoughts on my appearance at the moment in the comments. Not very nice. Thanks very much, Sam. We'll be all right, I think. I'm just excited about all the rumours. I love this time of year, and to have got a big name like Clarkson done nice and early, and Burrows teasing us with, there's a few more coming in soon, hopefully. I'm very, very excited, and it's a good time to be an Aberdeen fan. And it feels like it's been a long time since we've been saying this kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam's still just raging that you said he couldn't come on the podcast until he got rid of that five accent. See you alienating half our listeners and viewers. But yeah, no, a signing like Leighton certainly helps on the our road to Dublin for next year and winning that Europa League trophy. It's got me excited already for getting football back. I'm excited enough for this weekend with the possibility that Scotland can take a step towards Euro 2024. So we've got that to look forward to after Dublin. So Germany and Dublin next year. Better be saving my money after the European adventures this week.
Absolutely. And Robbie coming in saying, Calum been having a few celebratory cans or just absolutely buzzing. Just buzzing. I'm just saving myself. I thought I'd get myself in the mood. Leighton Clarkson with the little sunglasses emoji when he first left. Oh no, that wasn't even him. It's a fake Twitter account. It's pointless. I've ruined it there for myself.
Yeah, I know. I'm still not sure if that is actually Leighton Clarkson's Twitter or a fake Twitter, just copying everything from his Instagram.
It seems his mum has come out and debunked the myth that it's him, not him, only on Instagram. So don't be fooled like I was.
Yeah, well, his family are big fans of the show, and we know Leighton watches as well. So I'm sure he will be buzzing watching this back and seeing how unbelievably excited you are with your appearance as well. But I'm sure him and his family will be buzzing at just seeing a lot of the comments that are coming through on tonight's live episode on his return as well. And I suppose, Calum, obviously that is the second signing that we've got in the door. And we need to now see where else we go, because we did release we released 4 players, and obviously we had the loanees returning to their parent clubs. Good to see Leighton has returned. So we'll discuss the departures before we go into the rumour mill that has been generated, just in case anything wants to happen. The club have once again missed the 1903 signing announcement. There's going to be one signing. I hope they do, just for your sake. I hope they do.
I know.
So the club saw the departure since last time we did an episode. Ross McCrorie's move to Bristol City became official. Still no word on the official fee, given it was undisclosed, but rumours of it being between the 1 to 2 million mark, with the fee rising to 3 with add-ons. What was your thoughts on the value if that does come true, Calum?
For me, if it's sort of, I don't know, a lot of football deals are done in installments these days, and there was talk that it was only going to be 1 million up front and then some installments, some add-ons. I'm just happy. I'm happy. If we eventually get to that 3 million mark, even at the 2 million, I think it's a very, very good deal for all. Clearly, he was ready to move on, get down the road. He left us on a high note as well, sealing third place, coming out with Matty Pollock saying Hearts are falling apart. and a chance for him to go and double, triple his wages. And I've seen a lot of people saying, maybe he could have ended up at a higher level than Bristol City. They seem to be having a pretty good window so far, and they finished 14th last season in the Championship. But Scott McKenna's Nottingham Forest finished 17th in his first season there in the Championship, then reaching the Premier League. So you never know. And I wish him all the best, and hopefully we do have a sell on as well. That would be excellent if possible too. And I think the opportunity to take that money, taking Nicky Devlin for free as the replacement, and reinvest it elsewhere, meaning we don't have to sell Dukar Miovski on top of the European money. I think it's a good deal for all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it is a good deal, and like you say, I reiterate that. I think he does go with the best wishes from the fan base, and achieved us getting into, or helped us achieve, I should say, getting into third place. And I did just have that little doubt that he might stay, because the fact that we'd secured European football, and Sam comes in with a good point. Would you now use the McCrorie money for Matty Pollock? I certainly wouldn't be against using that money to sign up Matty Pollock, and you could maybe even use it towards some of Graham Shinney's wages, because I know he's not been paid for a while. Evening Wigan.
Yes, that's true. Depending on how much we were covering. I mean, first of all, good to see Wigan aren't going under as well. So congratulations. But now can we have Graham Shinney, please? That would be absolutely excellent. If so, I'd be all for using it, give whatever it takes to get Matty Pollock back up the road, because he was absolutely brilliant. He's still very young, still plenty of room to improve. Seemed a real leader, a sort of a wise head on young shoulders, and really fitted the game up here, you feel like. An absolute bastard of a player at times, and popped up with a few goals. There's a Scott McKenna money as well to invest. So I'm hopeful. I don't know whether Watford might be, wait and see how he does in pre-season or things like that before making a decision. So we might have to wait a while on that one. But I don't quite have the faith, as I did with the Clarkson one, that he'll end up back up the road, but I'm hopeful.
To be honest, I'm more hopeful after seeing his quote tweet on the re-signing of Leighton today than I was at the end of the season, when I really did feel it was going to be goodbye. Other players that have left the club at the end of their contracts was Marley Watkins, a player that we weren't really too sure if he would stay or not, given the extra games we're going to have next season. But we maybe have kind of heard a bit about his potential replacement in recent weeks, and maybe his replacement is actually close to signing. But we'll come on to that in a second. Academy graduates Dean Campbell and Conor McLennan both leave the club after loan spells away from the club last season. And Matty Kennedy, after starting the season predominantly under Jim Goodwin, faded away once he left, and Barry Robson came in charge. I don't actually think Matty actually played many minutes, if at all, under Barry Robson. No surprise that Messrs Derek McInnes is straighting about Matty Kennedy for his services. Maybe slight surprise to see Mason Hancock departing, potentially in the search for more first team football, and Liam Fox, who came in under Barry Robson, deciding not to stay on at the Dons for family reasons. So a bit disappointing in that sense. But I think overall, Calum, the departures that we've listed there, aside from Mason, were probably to be expected. Is that fair?
I think so. What I'm most particularly disappointed about the fact it didn't work out. Probably Dean Campbell. But he's proved he can go and play at a decent level. I'm sure he'll get a good move still, with time to reach that potential that we'd hoped he would have at Aberdeen. Matty Kennedy already been linked with Kilmarnock, as you said. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those other three also ended up in Dundee under Tony Dock. Just with the way things are going. But wish them all the best. Conor McLennan will always have that goal at Ibrox. And it's a shame to see these boyhood Aberdeen fans go, but I'm sure they'll work it out and it'll all be okay in the end. And on Liam Fox already being linked with the Hearts B job, which is interesting, but not much we could do about that if his family can't relocate up here. We don't know the circumstances, so Good luck to him. Thanks for your help in getting us third, mate. And
Yeah.
for your help in sending Dundee United down.
Yeah. It's a shame to see the Buck and Bale depart, but as you said, we've got that memory from that night at Ibrox. And Dean Campbell, a boyhood club that can also say he scored for his boyhood team, although a very scrappy goal away to Livingston, but was also part of a team that won at Ibrox, and I thought he had a good game that way. I do think Dean was unlucky in his time at Aberdeen. I think McInnes could have handled him a lot better in terms of putting him out on loan and giving him the opportunity for more minutes than kind of giving him the odd 5-10 minutes here and there, which maybe didn't help him. And obviously he's had that season at Stevenage, and I know Tranmere Rovers have been linked with him, but I thought both him and his parents put up very classy posts about Dean's time at Aberdeen, and maybe Dean can be a player that we get on the show and hear about what it was like coming through the academy and playing for the club as well. That would definitely be a one I'd be up for.
Absolutely. Sorry, just to go back to Leighton Clarkson and / Alan Burrows. Robbie mentioned that Burrows' last 2 tweets have been very encouraging in the past few minutes. So I went and had a check. Apparently, not apparently, Burrows has confirmed it. The deals with Clarkson and Ramsey not linked, so no fees waived, as we've seen rumoured, which is very good news. So it means more cash money for us.
Yeah, good. More Cormac coin to spend this summer. Ka-ching. Robbie also asks, what's our thoughts on Polvara, Calum Roberts and Vicente Bazawin? Of course, Polvara still on loan at Charleston Battery. It did say until the summer, but who knows what summer that is, if it's the American summer or our summer. I don't know about Calum Roberts, what the future holds for him. And Sam kind of, I guess, in response to Robbie's comment, because they were kind of not far apart, was that he thinks Vinny will go into our squad. I do think there'll be a bit of a redemption for Vicente Bazawin. I think, again, if you want to believe some of the rumours going around the internet, was that Barry Robson didn't want to see the little muscle boy leave for Sparta Rotterdam in January, and hopefully Barry Robson, admiring him as a player, maybe does see him feature more next season. Again, goes back to that player that we probably need off the bench. Of course, the fact that he went and played for Sparta once he'd recovered from his injury meant we couldn't use him, because you can't play for he couldn't play for us again at the back end of last season. I think out of those three that Robbie mentioned, I think Vicente's definitely got the best chance in terms of futures at the club over Dante and Calum Roberts.
Yeah, I would agree. I would absolutely agree. I've seen a lot of rumours about Calum Roberts moving to Chesterfield. Interestingly, I think that's also National League. It's just not worked out for him. A very lengthy injury. Then we stopped playing with the wingers, so it's not been fantastic. A bit of a shame given he was branded the Geordie Messi by Notts County fans. I would love to see Vinny back in amongst it. Crypto Kev mentioned earlier that he doesn't think Vinny is Barry's type of player, but maybe Barry's the exactly type of person to get it out of him, get him playing the way we want. Look at the improvement Leighton Clarkson had in terms of his application under Robson. Hopefully we can see the same with Vicente. I think we saw in flashes the type of things he was capable of. It was just the sort of consistency that was lacking. Still a young player. We paid a fee for him. I think he's still got quite a few years left on his contract as well. I would love to see it work out and get more use out of the little Marshall boy tweet. However, I would sort of be expecting some sort of announcement on that, because Excelsior did have a option to buy, which I would assume they're not going to make use of. But you would think we'd find out sooner rather than later. Having said that, a lot of European loans don't often end until the 30th of June. So maybe it's just going to wait until the expiration of that. But I want the little muscle boy to stay and add him to the front three. Along with Miofsky and Duke, Leighton Clarkson supplying them. That's what dreams are made of.
Yeah, and that's, I saw that comment come in from Crypto Kev about maybe him not being suited to Barry Robson, and the comments about his diving as well, which obviously we picked up on in the early part of the season. And you actually kind of took the words out of my mouth, because that was going to be the kind of comparison I was going to make on Vicente in terms of Barry Robson and Leighton Clarkson, in terms of turning a player around and getting the best out of him. And I suppose Mark Leslie also followed that up by saying he could be an option up front. And I guess, again, with playing in Europe, we might need to change up some of our styles, because I think there was a comment, it was also from Mark, about do we think that Barry will stick to that 3-5-2 formation? But I guess against maybe some of these teams on the European stage, or again domestically, we might need to change up that formation, and you could use the tall and small of a Bojan and Vinny to cause teams problems. So I think certainly for next season, I hope Excelsior don't take up that option on Vicente, and he does stay here. But as you said, that one maybe does remain to be seen.
Absolutely. Just on Paul Farah, I don't have much to say. I can't imagine he'll still be here. But I just really wanted to mention again the photo of him when he signed for Charleston Battery with a cannon. Brilliant stuff. And, if nothing else, we'll always have that.
I guess, though, maybe the likes of Dante Polvara's future depends on what's going to happen with Connor Barron, because there was certainly a general feeling that Connor Barron would be departing the club this summer, but any potential move away from the club seems to very much cooled in recent weeks. So maybe another player on a redemption arc next season could be Connor Barron.
Potentially. I mean, I love to see it work out for him. However, the contract situation does concern me, because I believe it expires at the end of the 2023-24 season. And although, maybe his past season he wasn't quite at it as much as we'd have thought he was going to be, did struggle with injuries, however. I think there is a player in there, very much so. And he's still very, very young. And I would like to see us not lose him for free eventually at some point. So extension would be more than welcome if we can sort that out. And for him, the prospect now of Europe, we're on the up rather than being this sort of bottom six side as we were at the end of the last season. So I'm hopeful. And then if you think about it, going into next season, if we have Shinnie, if he re-signs Ramadani, Clarkson, and Barron, that's pretty good depth in that centre mid spot.
Yeah, and I know a few of you made comments tonight on the live about potentially Mark O'Hara being someone that you would like to see the club sign. You could add him into that midfield if that was somewhere that the club decided to go down. And I guess I saw Sam mention about maybe putting Connor Barron out on loan, but I don't really think that might be the case, because of course, remember, next season with European football, you do have to have a certain amount of homegrown players. So I would assume we would see Connor Barron stay next season if a move doesn't work out, because he would help fill that homegrown quota that's needed for European football.
Absolutely. I mean, I was going through it. I believe it's 4 players, unless you leave spots out in the A list of registration that have been trained at the club between 15 and 21. It's a lot of football manager knowledge as well. And looking at the squad, we don't have a lot of that. And you also need a certain amount of Scottish players in the A list, unless there's spots left empty as well, which I believe is 8. Don't have a lot of that either, especially with McCrorie leaving being one of them.
I suppose that puts the hope on that Graham Shinnie comes back. But then if you're looking for the 4 that you mentioned, I guess you would be looking at Jack McKenzie, Ryan Duncan, Alfie Babbage, and
then there's Barron and Milne, perhaps.
Yeah, so again, Barron could be there to fill in that 4th spot. Would you play Jack Milne in Europe, or would you just have him there for the numbers? So it could be the fact that you need that quota for Europe, that we say to Connor, look, you're not going anywhere until minimum January next year. So
possibly, but then it's probably, if we are going to sell him, it'll be a snipped fee, or it might end up being on pre-contract. So it's a big risk, but I'd like to see him sign that contract and kick on and be the player that sort of we had that hopes for, and not sort of end up the same way as many others have down the line previously. Rather.
Well, Chris says Tom Ritchie as the third keeper would fill that quota of players training at the club from that you mentioned as well. So there. And another comment in saying it was Aberdeen funds used to pay for Clarkson. If that's true, then it's the best thing that Aberdeen has ever done. And if it's a cheap plug to get folk to sign up to DNA, I'm still not buying it, Mr. Burrows.
Fair. I mean, it's about time we use those funds for something, but maybe they've just been saving up the whole time. They had the foresight to save it up the whole time and pay for Leighton Clarkson. But if it is out of the DNA funds, then that is fantastic news, because then it still means we've got McKenna money, McCrorie money, European money, absolutely laughing, rolling in it.
Yeah, and what's that? Don's Dosh, or whatever the stupid thing they called it for next season. I know you're annoyed they didn't call it Cormac coins, but new system for buying stuff at Pataudry next season.
Yeah, so I think we get cash back on stuff we buy, basically.
Does that include buys?
I don't think it includes pies. I wish it did, because then I would be rolling in it. No, I think it's sort of merchandise, possibly tickets and things like that as well, which I think works out pretty good, because then you also then you end up you'll end up getting money off. So I like it.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Now on to your favourite time of the show.
Yes.
Transfer rumours. A few of you have mentioned this guy's name already. Tonio Teklic has been rumoured as someone close to signing for the Dons. He is at currently Croatian side NK Veresden, and looks to be a central attacking midfielder or a winger. And certainly from some of the highlight reels and clips posted on Twitter, loves to score a screamer and looks a very technically gifted player. Another player that would excite, and I suppose on the back of Leighton Clarkson would just give us another technically gifted player and another option to provide decent service to Bojan Miovski and Duke.
Absolutely. Plus, he is foreign, and I just love it when we sign foreign players. Last season, absolutely brilliant when Duke, Ramadani, Miovski all came in. It just gets me very excited, and I just absolutely love it. But it would also probably, to me, suggest a slight change in the way we're going to play. If he is sort of more of a number 10, perhaps we are going to look to switch things up, and then you've got the four players we'd mentioned as that sort of sitting a little bit more midfielders, the deeper line midfielders, and then a little bit more of a creative spark, which I'm absolutely all for. And I just get really excited, as I said, and we're starting a Balkan revolution, and I'm all for it. I've not even bothered watching the highlight clips yet, but when I did that with Miovski, I got really, really excited. So it's maybe best I stay away and just stay calm a little bit.
And the one player that looks set to maybe be announced next at the club is Slovenian striker. I'm not even going to attempt to say the name because I'll absolutely butcher it, as you had to literally spell it letter by letter because you couldn't pronounce it either, is Ester Sokler. Slovenian striker, as I said, looking set to join the Dons. Maybe going back to Alan Burrows and his Twitter account, he did say there was a couple of deals close to being announced in the near future. Is Esther going to be the second of those players that he was maybe referring to?
Hopefully. I mean, I forgive me, I can't remember his name, but the man that is sort of an expert on the sort of Balkan / Eastern / Central European leagues. By the sounds of it, Sokler seems similar to Miovski in that if service is provided, he can be a good goal scorer. He scored 10 in 30, I believe, last season in the Slovenian league. And some of the clubs he's been at, the guys also said, haven't been in the best state. So hopefully that would only improve. And I think having a sort of alternative to Miovski would absolutely be beneficial. And I hate to say it again, not to bring down the mood, but Miovski will move on at some point. So if, for example, this season was a bedding in period for this fella before he stepped up to the mark as first choice, then I'm absolutely all for it. I believe he's former Slovenian under-21 international, now either 23 or 24. I like it. And as we've said many a time, we need strength and depth. 4 competitions next season that we want to leave a mark on. So
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, and that Tonio Teklic, to go back to him, I'm sure he was actually captaining the Croatian under-21s as well recently. So these players have got a bit of international pedigree, or are certainly recognised by their country as well. So a bit about them as well. And, in the rumours that we've got when we were speaking pre going live, we didn't even discuss Graham Shinney. He's not even on this list. So hopefully he's a player that we'll be discussing next time we come on here. But in that sort of similar position, I think he covers central defensive mid and centre back. It is a player that we've been linked with for a while now. Is Jay Idzes is how I'm going to call it. I don't even know if that's his last name. But he's a player that's maybe weighing up his options. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought we weren't going to be hanging about for players. We didn't want to be a second option for players. Is this one that we're maybe going to be strung along a bit on?
Possibly. I'm beginning to not like the whole thing, just because we've been linked for so long, and obviously he didn't want to come in January because he wanted to see, we ended up not having a permanent manager, so that wasn't fantastic. It does feel like we're being used to get his name out there. That being said, I believe his contract will officially expire to the end of June. So still time, and maybe that's something that's, I don't know, holding it up maybe out of respect for former clubs. I don't know. But it's starting to stink. That being said, if he does sign tomorrow, I'd be absolutely over the moon and delighted. So very fickle, but I just want centre-backs because we desperately need them.
Yeah, we do, and I suppose the ones that we're looking at, Liam Scales, Matty Pollock, those guys were loan players, and obviously with the change of manager at Parkhead, maybe Liam Scales is also potentially having second thoughts and maybe hoping to impress Brendan Rodgers or whoever takes the job there. But I would hope that he's enjoyed his time enough up here to want to come back. But these are certainly players that are exciting, and I just want to pick up this point from Noel Blaha before we move on to a couple of the other players, was that we're going to need the depth as we've been discussing on the show tonight. But it'll be great to finally have like for like substitutions, as Noel says. But it will also certainly put Barry's man management skills to the test, and I think that's another kind of interesting point, because certainly last season we picked up on the point that options off the bench tended to be limited. Nothing against Marley Watkins there particularly, because I know he was the first go-to sub, but I kind of have a point Jim Goodwin made about he doesn't want the team being weakened when we went to the bench, and maybe we were slightly weaker when we were making substitutions, but with all these different players from different countries coming in, and Robson being that inexperienced manager, I think that's a fair point Noel makes. It will be a test for Robson next season on that man management, but I think him and Steve Agnew come across as those two types of men that demand respect.
I think so. And I'm sure the players won't be under any illusions when they're coming in. For example, let's use this Slovenian striker. We've got Duka Mijovski, who's just scored 18 goals apiece. You're being brought in to provide competition. If you can outperform them in training and the chances you're given these two are the starters, then absolutely you'll be the guy. That is absolutely fine. And surely the players you'd like to think would like back themselves in that situation. Then if it doesn't come to fruition, there's a problem where do they throw the toys out the pram? But we're going to be playing 50 games next season. Anyway, guaranteed. 38 in the league, 8 in Europe, and then at least 2. That is if we get knocked out in the first round of both cups. So that's a lot of football. You can't be expecting Duke to play the way he does in all of those games. Bojan Mijovski coming back off an injury. We'll need rotation for him. I think it's a good problem to have. And you'd like to think Barry, with the experience of Agnew, who's been there and done it many a years as a number 2 elsewhere, will have it under control.
I've actually got a point on Duke that comes into effect this weekend. Okay. Depending on the Cape Verde result, they we could be missing Duke for a month in January, February time, because I want to say it's winner takes all, but don't quote me on that. If Cape Verde win at the weekend, they qualify for the African Cup of Nations in January. So, you say about putting pressure on the likes of Duke and Miovski already. We could be needing the likes of Esther Sockler, who hopefully works out better than Patrick Mislovic, I think the last Slovenian we signed, to step up and be ready to replace Duke if at the weekend Cape Verde do qualify for that tournament.
Very true. Something I hadn't considered, actually. I'd love to see Duke playing in an African Cup of Nations. That would be quality. But thought of losing him for a month, given how badly we dropped off, sort of whenever he was missing or had to go off, even in games, it's a concern. But that's where this recruitment and things becomes even more important. And you'd like to think the little muscle boy will be able to step into those shoes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't actually know what the dates are of that tournament and how they cross over with the winter break that we've got next season. And of course, I know we tend to come back and play the first round of the Scottish Cup around then. So it'd be interesting to see if they do qualify, how many games he would miss for us. But again, it just shows that we've got players that we can put on the international stage and put towards qualifying for major tournaments.
Absolutely. So I was just checking when the dates of the African Cup of Nations would be. So it would be the 13th of January until February the 11th. Now, I wouldn't expect Cape Verde to get to the final, but with Duke, anything is possible. So that would probably mean he'd return just in time for our Europa League knockouts, perhaps. So just something to think about.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to see if I can find their group, but I can't. I thought it was I'm sure it was on Saturday I saw, but it's maybe not.
Yeah, Swaziland.
It's on Sunday. And yeah, it's on Sunday. They need to beat Burkina Faso,
right,
by 3 or more goals.
Oh, Duke hat-trick incoming.
Yeah, I think, and if it's a 2-0 win, then it'll come down to goal scored. But live score is not telling me the goal scored just now. So anything more than a 2-0 win for Cape Verde sees them qualify for African Cup of Nations. So, and I think, well, just now that would be them automatically. They are in a playoff place just now, so still more to rumble on that. But
further stress, goodness me.
I know, right? More content for us though. Anyway, back to the transfer rumours, and probably more of the McInnes type transfer rumours, as I've enjoyed seeing people compare these guys to. No disrespect, of course, and it's more again defensive cover. Ali Koike from Northampton, the left back, is rumoured to being touted, along with Morgan Feeney from Carlisle, who of course won promotion from League 2 to League 1 at the end of last season. Will Fish, of course, who had a successful loan period at Hibs from Man United, was also rumoured, had his name linked to the Dons, but in a recent article it looks to be that Hibs have finally beaten us to a signing, and attracting Will Fish to Leith, as the Dons dropped out of the race and focus on other targets instead. I suppose, as I said, with the greatest of respects to the likes of Morgan Feeney and Ali Koike, these are the names that don't exactly get you on the edge of the seat and make you excited having the Aberdeen Twitter notifications on, but these are players in positions that we do need that strength and depth in.
Absolutely. I mean, those two in particular, both had, on the books at Premier League clubs once upon a time. Morgan Feeney was at Everton. I believe they did very well if they won some sort of competition, some sort of reserves competition when he was there. I think he might have been captain. And Ali Koike was on the books at Crystal Palace and Burnley. Both still no older than 24, I believe. And look, it's not the type of ones that are going to get us excited like Leighton Clarkson or Esther Sockler, perhaps. Not exotic. However, Angus MacDonald came from League 2, Swindon Town. And look how he's done. Look how much we've grown to love him. Look how much he's grown to love us. let's not write them off. And Ali Koike, according to Wikipedia, is 6'2". And if we have a left back that's 6'2", then I'm happy, regardless. I like a huge back four. So it'll be interesting ones to keep an eye on. And Morgan Feeney, I think Carlisle United fans would, from what I gather on social media, would have been very disappointed if they lose him. So that's usually a pretty good sign. So look, I won't turn my nose up at them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I said that kind of goes back to that point about we are maybe going to get those sort of players that go under the radar a little bit. Certainly, I'm sure we'll have a couple of signings that go under the radar as well. But it'll be a busy few weeks coming up. I can't remember I don't know if it's been announced what date that we fly out to Portugal for that week's training. Certainly, if you take into account that we're due to play Turriff on the 12th of July, I would maybe suspect that we're looking to head to Portugal on the 3rd of July for a week, for a week's training session out there. So you're probably looking about a couple of weeks before the Dons return for pre-season training, and we maybe see a few familiar, few new faces back at Cormac Park, and more content for us to generate and get more of you along to these lives that we do. And there's been lots of you watching tonight. So if you are new to the channel, remember to subscribe, hit that like button, and like the rest of you that already do subscribe and have liked the video, comment along with your thoughts. Because it's great when we do these sorts of episodes, especially in summer and talking about transfer signings, getting your guys' thoughts as we go along. And Calum, this one's probably more for you, given the fact that you're the most optimistic of the two of us. It came from Bill about half an hour ago, and he said, "Would you rather we won the league or collect our 3rd star next season?"
3rd star, undisputed 3rd star. And look, I'd be happy with either. I'd be happy with this League Cup or Scottish Cup, but 3rd star has to be, because then it's really undisputed. Because people always say, "Oh well, the Super Cup doesn't really count," even though it did back then. It did matter back then. Not that I'm getting back up about it. I would say 3rd star just because lots of Euro adventure. We'd get to see a little bit of a new badge as well. That'd be exciting, wouldn't it? That would be fun. And if it was the Europa League, we'd then be in the Champions League anyway. So, and good times had by all.
Or we could just do a West Ham win the Conference League just to continuously get Europa League football.
That's true. And also, though, we would get more money for winning either of the 3 European tournaments than we would for winning the league. Not either of the 3. We're only going to be in 2 of them, possibly. We'd get more money for that as well. However, our bank balances would respectively be very drained by that point. But, it's the joys, isn't it?
So would my annual leave, but absolutely worth it. I'd have to start buying holidays from work, and I'd be all for it if it meant we saw us get another star on the badge. But been good, Calum, getting back behind the mic tonight to discuss the return of Leighton Clarkson and all the transfer rumours that have been going on. Not sure when we'll be back again. Maybe another couple of weeks. If there's more exciting signings to come, we'll be jumping straight back on to bring you more Dons content. So yeah, thank you to all of you that have joined us live on the YouTube channel tonight. Thank you to those of you that are catching up, whether it's here on YouTube or over on our audio platforms. And if you are listening, remember to, of course, hit that subscribe button so that when the audio does drop from these lives, you're notified straight away and you're not missing out too much.
Absolutely. Also, even if you are going to listen in, I recommend you at least just load up the YouTube video and just have a look at my get-up.
Yeah, how stupid you look.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Calum, for jumping on this and helping me avoid second-degree burns from the extreme heat we're still experiencing. And thank you to all of you for tuning in wherever it is, whether it's on the beach on your holidays, on the bus to Stansted. Enjoy that trip to Oslo, Ewan, and bring back a good result for us. or if you're over in the States as well, wherever you are, very much. Until next time, goodbye.